of the subtle subliminal message. So that's why the word subtle, just to show you how subtle is. Subtle is spelled with a B. The same sub is right there, but they make it silent. So subtle it is. All of these are secret signs that are playing with us. I tell you. So this is why, you know, you have to refer to these individuals as robbers, as criminals, and all sorts of things. That's because that's exactly what they are. Now, you see, these fellas here, because they are fellas, you know, as I mentioned, Society of Odd Fellas, people that they call the Society of Friends. You know what they call the Society of Friends? The Quakers. Quakers, the same people you see in the oats. Anybody had a bowl of Quake oats this morning? I mean, oats is good, you know, but personally I wouldn't eat from the Quaker. Quakers are the same people that came to the Society of Friends. Christ called Judas friend, you know. These people came and killed off the Indians for their land. Pilgrims, talking about Society of Friends. What kind of friends are these? And then they have Thanksgiving Day, eating turkey, which is a very sacred bird, to the same Indians that they just kill off. Friends. Alright. Friend is right. Now, can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? You don't have to welcome me to Pool Corner, and I don't really know how to get to Sesame Street. I'm alright with that. Before we get to these freaks here, the whole Sesame, this is Kabbalah again. So this is why now you hear them say open sesame. All of these are codes, what they want to refer to as Jewish magic. Open sesame. Alakazam. Abracadabra. Abracadabra is a mathematical theory. When you actually do abracadabra, if you look it up, it comes out like a triangle. Abracadabra, where in almost any way you turn it, it still reads abracadabra. It's a mystic thing. You have to start with the A, abra, and just keep going. Abracadabra. Mathematical theory comes out like a triangle. You just turn it, you still keep getting abracadabra. Alakazam. Yip, 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 all of these things. Yeah, it sounds funny. Comes right out of the Kabbalah and the so-called Jewish magic book, Sesame Street. Alright. Now, and still the sesame seed. Now, big frog. Here is a bird, just like the bear, a made-up bird, something they invented to express whatever they need to express. Alright, now what could be the crime behind this innocent bird here? Now, big bird, being a male bird, is usually the sort of message they portray. Big bird, being a male bird, actually lives in a nest. Alright, nothing wrong with that. Birds live in a nest, no? Okay. Now, in reality, it's really the female bird that lives in the nest. The male does assist to build the nest, and of course, you know, the mother bird is really working hard too. But she's the one that really guards the eggs and sits with the chicks. Now, keep in mind, I want you to keep this point in mind though, that within all the species of birds, millions or whatever you go into, I mean, you'll find the unique in many different areas, in all sorts of animals. But when we observe now, big bird, an invented bird, as I said, just like the bear, going against the whole nature of a bird in general. The male birds don't go and live in the nest. The male birds really don't even have a home. It's the female bird that lives in the nest, whether it's the round nest or even a hole in the walls. Even the mountain rock tops that some of them live in, and the woodpeckers. It's always the female birds and her chick. The male bird will just stay on the limb and look out. He might go in and check a thing, but he's always on the limb looking out. Alright. Big bird is a male bird living in the nest. And what makes it worse, big bird doesn't have a woman. So he doesn't really have any excuse. But what does big bird have? Alright. Now before we get to these criminals down here, there's an individual who is not on the wall they call Snuffleupagus. Now, depending on your age again and if you really got into these things, Snuffleupagus was an individual that no one on Sesame Street could see. except the bird and me and you who are watching the television. Hollywood inhaling, huh? Now anytime someone is coming, whether it's Maria or Bob, you'll always see Snuffy rolling going out the back door. It's funny, the camera always seems to catch Snuffy. I always notice this, you know. The camera always seems to get Snuffy rolling going out the back door. They never catch him from the side or even from in front when he's coming out. They always catch Snuffy us going out the back door, rolling going out. Snuffy with his long eyelashes is a he, you know. Snuffy, alright. I wonder what is snuffing. Now, when you study history now, in the mid-80s, because for those who are young to the world has not always been this way, you know. There was a time when what people refer to as homosexuals today were not as open as such as they are now. Actually, in the mid-80s, with all the rioting and the gay rights protesting and all these things, and you know, everybody looking for their rights. You ain't right, but yet still everyone wants their right though. Homosexuals, lesbian. That's the whole concept of it, you know, lesbian. Good. I really hope no one here is offended. I really hope so. Now, in reality now, that was the same time in the mid-80s when snuffleupagus began to become accepted on Sesame Street. All of a sudden now, when all the homosexuals all over the world and the Winnie the Pooh is coming out of the closet, snuffleupagus came out of the closet too. The same Snuffy that had to run every time somebody was coming didn't have to run anymore. Because all over the world, gays and lesbian were marching and fighting and protesting and standing up for their wrongs. The Snuffy was safe now, up to this day. Snuffleupagus doesn't have any ears. You meditate on these things, you know. Okay, now, and okay, blessed, okay is okie dokie. That's some European fable of some okie dokie business. Now, these three individuals historically are three of the most wickedest, if that's the right word, and evil and conniving generals that ever scaled history. And we can prove it. This individual here is a general known as Part3, Napoleon's general. We are positive because if you study, that's the same general that arrested the Pope in 1798. When you know that story there, Part3. Now Part3 was actually a student of the House of Wizard. The House of Wizard, like Merlin. Now, one of the outstanding characteristics of a wizard is his pointed hat, or symbolically his cone head. This is why you see the movie Cone Heads. The cone heads appear to be so intelligent, Dan Aykroyd and these ones. That's why Bert would appear to be a little more brilliant than Ernie, although the situation never seems to leave him that way. Yet still now, this cone head is the symbol of the pyramid head. That's why you see all the Buddha statues in Indonesia and these ones, you see them have the pyramid head. Or the turban. The turban is also a symbol of the same cone head, or I should say the cone head is a symbol of the ancient turban, because it's really a symbol, the cone head, because Part3, who was considered to be very, very brilliant, that's why Napoleon made him general. He was very brilliant because he was actually a wizard. That's him. Now, in the war with Ethiopia, when Mussolini, Humpty Dumpty, invaded Ethiopia, yes, they used to refer to him as the egg, you know. Alright, we have some pictures of him falling off the wall and nobody could put him together again. They hung Mussolini who looks like an egg, upside it down in Milan, Italy. All the king horses and all the king's men could not put him together again. He was dead. His own people killed him in Milan Square and hung him upside down, the same Mussolini that they were rallying behind to go and invade Ethiopia. But anyway, Mussolini had 3 specific generals. The first one is Rudolf Graziani, who has 2 names. He was referred to as the Butcher before going into Ethiopia. And on the 19th of February 1937, Graziani, the general, one of Mussolini's general, massacred 3,000 Ethiopians in one day because they attempted to take his Graziani life. When Graziani did that, they gave him the name the Slayer. You can read it in history books, the Butcher or the Slayer, Rudolf Graziani. Good. He ain't there. I'm going to tell you who he is now. Now, Ernestine de Bono now, Mussolini again, a general didn't seem to be doing the war or doing the war justice. So what's his name? Mussolini now called for Elmo Bagdaglio. Write them down and go and check it out. Elmo Bagdaglio replaced de Bono as the new general of the war, the invasion of Ethiopia. So now you have de Bono, Ernestine de Bono, Elmo Bagdaglio, and the Rudolf Graziani is the same Rudolph for Santa Claus. That's why Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Sleigh, you know. They refer to Graziani, Rudolf Graziani, as the Slayer or the Butcher. He has those 2 names. And he was the one that led the army first into Ethiopia by a Roman general. We're going to get to Santa Claus too. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? And all the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you will go down in history. He went down in history. Yes, I. So, as I said, 3 of the most ruthless. This is the one that licked the stone out, the nose off of the Sphinx. Bertrea, de Bono, and Elmo Bagdaglio. Puppets. Nice and cuddly. Ernie and Bert sleeping in the same room, and Elmo and everybody love Elmo. Not me. Now, the discount. Count Dracula. Now a count, now this is such a simple, subtle message. The count is a title. It's like a duke or an earl. Earl is a name, we have a title. Like Bruce, remember we spoke of Robert the Bruce? Bruce is a title. The count is a title. The count teaches you to count. As simple as that. I mean, that has hit us for years. I'm sure many never really sat and said, you know, the count really teaches us to count. Simple as that. That's how simple and subtle a message can be. That's very simple, you know. That's like something you just see drop and pick up. While big birds sleeping in the nest is something you may have to put your mind to. Now, the problem with this discount is that he's not teaching you the ancient way of counting. This vampire thing is something that you'll find in the Jewish magic book, where they actually used to suck the blood of the children. This is a thing that goes on all the time. So what this count blood drinker is doing here now, he's symbolically sucking the blood of our children, you see? Children have to stand up for that now. Because now, in reality, counting from 1 to 10, as we mentioned in the previous lecture, is not the ancient way of counting. From the time you start, we all gone wrong. That's why he's a discount. He's dissing the count. He ain't the real count, he can't count. 1 and 2 and ha ha ha. Stupidness. Actually, the ancient way of counting is from 0. You have to, even if you don't say 0 and 1, the fact that we don't say 0, we all know as conscious people, anyone here is a conscious person, know for a fact that until you became conscious, you never really conceived that 0 really must come before 1 in the whole aspect of the nothingness. Even though it is not the zero, you must comprehend that the nothingness is important. This is why when we went to the black woman's presence in the African concept of God, we expressed the whole concept of the none or the nothingness wherein all life came out. So with none or zero, which is the ancient Ethiopian term for the woman, was zero. And then one, this is why we show you one, that's why it's a second. 1 second, because it's the second number. 1, 0, and then 1 and 2 and 3. He starts from 1 and ends at 10, where the 0 comes at the end, but the 0 is supposed to be at the beginning. And in that, which looks so simple, because many people say, yes, Sesame Street taught me to count to 10. And a few Spanish words, aguan, and these kind of things. That's not good enough when you're going to compare the kind of damage that these little freaky things has done to our souls and even the mind of our children. Very, very sick, you know. Just previous night, looking at an X-rated film with him. Yeah, Cartoon Network I talking about it. Yeah, I consider that X-rated very much. This is why them fellas' pants are always dropping off. He and Patrick the Crab playing mommy and daddy. Yeah, Patrick the Starfish. The crab is the one that has a whale for a daughter. That's how you go, right? Mm-hmm. Right. That's a Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy there. Hog and a frog. Anyway, now this, yeah, everyone can see that's sick, you know. We all know that. I mean, I really advise, I would never encourage no one to make a child watch that. That's like drinking beer or smoking cigarette. This concept now of the square pants thing, it is a real concept. It is a grandmaster concept, because the grandmaster is the individual that sits on the square. That's an agency that goes from the Osiris to the Horus to the George Washington, and I'm sure you may have seen it in the movie National Treasure, where the grandmaster sits on the square. So now the fact that this little freak's pants is square, although he's not sitting down, is the symbol showing you that he considers himself a grandmaster, because he is sitting on the square, his whole pants is square. But you see, there's another message behind this, very subtle, and it has to do with the nature of this matter. I'm talking of the sponge. Not just something that sucks water, because obviously sucks water and it's underwater. Alright. But yet still, just simple marine biology we just bring to a comprehension what this thing is all about. You will notice most of the time they will have these flowers here, because what we would refer to as coral reef today, that hard coral reef, being itself just like the evergreen pine tree, some of them thousands of years old, because the coral reef, just like the stone, is alive. The coral reef has such a mystic metamorphosis that it came from a vegetable state to the state of hard coral. We see that with trees, you know. There are a lot of trees that turn to stone. A lot of the stones that we see are trees. That's where you get the term petrified. When somebody says, wow, I was petrified, you turn to stone. Petrified, that's why you get the term Petre. Peter means rock. Petrified. I've seen wood turn to stone, wherein this happens in nature all the time. So now actually, that's why a lot of people, when they go down into like the Florida Keys and Bermuda, a lot of people dive to the bottom of the ocean to cut sponge from the bottom of the ocean. And even sometimes when you go to the beach, you would actually see the sponge washing away on the shore, or even floating in the water. What's going on here? This sponge itself now is actually what you may call a midway point between the plant stage and the coral stage. So in other words, the spongy stage is actually the middle stage or an immature stage of the coral. So the sponge itself has not matured. The sponge is still immature. And this is why, for anyone who really observed this cartoon, anytime SpongeBob, Sponge Robert, or Bob is short for Robert, I'm looking to who Robert is. Bobby. This is why, when you see, now this is it. That is exactly true. I mean, I think we had that same reasoning. That is exactly right. That's why most people with English have dyslexia. Or I should say most people that have dyslexia speak English. Because Bob, how on earth would Bob be short for Robert? And Bill be short for William, and yet still you have Will. That is real confusion to the mind. That's why people that have dyslexia are most people that speak English. And to actually reverse it, they teach them other ancient languages like Chinese. Chinese literally reverse dyslexia. Just to show you, it's really a mind disease, and it's just the way that we talk. And the way they teach us to talk in this mixed up language. Give thanks to the wisdom of the youth out of the mouth of babes and suckling. So Bobby now, as I said, immature. This is why when Bobby comes out of the water, for those who watch it, he always comes out as a puppet. They never show you this being here coming out of the water and he's still a cartoon. When he comes out of the water, he changes to a puppet, showing you subtly and subliminally that when the sponge emerges out of the water, it is supposed to be a different being from the sponge to the coral. So, although now, and this is very important, because many of the cartoons they show today, this is why I like to specialize in these old things, not this, the other old things, because a lot of these things today, especially the movies that people think are so esoteric, they're just showing you these things so you can see. So when you see all of them pulling down their pants on the TV, don't get confused. They have other messages deeper than that. That is just to take you off track. So you can say, oh, look at that, that's so sick. But there's something deeper than that. So he'll keep dropping his pants. But are we going to take time to comprehend why is it when he comes out of the water, he's no longer a cartoon? He turns to a puppet because he's in an immature state right there as a sponge. And the time is moving on, so we definitely... Good. Now, this ex-con here. He is an ex-con. He was taken out of jail by so-called Emperor Constantine. Drinking Coca-Cola. Alright, seeing who we can go and manipulate all across the world. Now, that individual there, this is the subtle message again. You know, you grow up Santa Claus, and then when you reach this stage in life, somehow something hits you that Santa Claus is not real. All of this is a subtle message again. Santa Claus is as real as anyone in here. This is a real man, and I consider him very real. He's dead now, but he's real. I mean, they call him Saint Nick. That's somebody, you know. Ain't no makeup, nothing. That's an individual who has a birthday time, a mother and a father, and he had things that he did. Saint Nicholas of Myre, Turkey. Turkey is between Asia and Europe. They say it sits on the border between Asia and Europe, Turkey. Santa Claus is Saint Nicholas. Of course, you know they became a saint after they died. That's their tradition. It's alright, leave them with it. Now, I mean, the scripture says, I shall give them teachers and apostles and all sorts of things for the quickening of the saints. Now, what kind of saints are going to quicken? Not dead people. Living saints. Saints are living people. You can't be... But it's alright. If they're going to, you know, make people saints when they die, leave that with them. That's their tradition. Now, this individual, the part that this individual played is very important, because we always speak of the Nicene Council of Bishops, 325 AD. As we mentioned in the previous lecture, there are other councils too, from Ephesus and Anatolia and Crete many different councils that had a lot to do with the demolishing of the ancient order of the Creator. But now, in the Nicene Council of Bishops, remember, you know, what took place there? It was under Emperor, so-called Emperor Constantine, the Emperor of Rome, who had this Council of Bishops wherein they gathered together to actually, what you want to call, reform the Christian order. Remember, before that, they were persecuting Christians. This is known history. But all of a sudden, when Constantine, who was actually a member of Sol Invictus, which is a sun worship society, Sol Invictus, when he came on the scene now, he specifically actually released this individual who was said to be in jail, had a council, and made that individual his chief envoy. Just look at the history. Alright, fair enough, somebody had to be his chief envoy. He represented Constantine. So if Constantine now had to go to the bathroom to visit Winnie the Pooh or somebody, Saint Nicholas would actually take over the council until he comes back. But then let us think about what really took place at this council. This is why when you read in the Bible, it talks about looking for the book of Jasper and the book of Iddu. When you read 2 Chronicles and the Kings, you read them thoroughly. You can't just give a chapter and verse for everything. Go and read the book. It always tells you, refer to the book of Jasper, refer to the book of Iddu, refer to the Acts of Solomon, refer to the book of Nathan, refer to the book of the God of War. None of these books are in the Bible, but yet still the Bible is telling you to refer to the books. Where are these books? Where did these books go? Now, over a period of time, these books, like other books, have been taken right out of the manuscript. Now, this is why I say now, even at these councils, the whole concept of the Christ figure was changed. Not just the color. For years there are people wrestling over color, and these colors is not just color, it goes beyond color. This is why I'm not in no fight with anyone and Jesus being black, you know. And say Jesus don't have no color. I agree that. That's Michelangelo's painting there. Yeah, you don't look like you have any color to me. I look at Michelangelo's painting of Jesus. Yes, that's Jesus, because before that there wasn't any Jesus really, and that's nothing. That's no religious statement again. This is just facts. Jesus, G-E-Z-U-Z, was the name of the first slave ship that brought slaves to the West in 1517. You write it down. Sailed by John Hawkins to Virginia. That's the name of the ship. That's the first time people start to hear this name as such. Wherein the name now, Iesus Christus, the same Jesse Jesus, was actually the name of the individual was changed. His whole nature was changed. This is why the individual known as Arian was present in 325 at the Nicene Council of Bishops. Arian was actually kicked out because he did not want to go along with the pattern that was taking place. Pantheos, another North African bishop, taught us from 100 AD that Christ was born in a cave in Ethiopia. This is why 2 Chronicles chapter 33 verse 14 shows you that Bethlehem, the city of David, 2 Chronicles chapter 33 verse 14, check it out, shows you that the city of David was located on the west side of the river Nile. It says so right there. The river Nile is the river Gihon. Genesis chapter 2 verse 13 shows you that the Gihon is the river that encompasses Ethiopia, which must be the Nile. So if the city of David is on the west of the Gihon, which is the Nile, Bethlehem is on the west of the Nile. That is why even the documentary we did, The Biblical Land of Israel, proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the true land of Israel, according to the Bible, geographically and biblically, is Africa plus Arabia, according to biblical geographical description. Nothing that I dream about and make up. So I'm showing you all of these things. Even in Matthew chapter 5, verse 22, there's a word that is used by the Messiah known as Raka. Now Raka is not even Hebrew. Raka is an Ethiopic word. This is a word that has been left untranslated, even through all the translations that so-called St. Jerome did. Raka was left untranslated, and Raka itself is an Ethiopic word showing you that the Christ man was an Ethiopian. So I'm making all these points to show you this distortion of the true Bongo Jesse Christ. All of this distortion primarily took place in 325 at the Council of Nicaea. People always put the blame on Constantine, but as I told you, when he had to go to the bathroom, this fellow would take over. Saint Nicholas of Myra, Turkey, the special envoy of Constantine. Alright, a bishop. Now this bishop was said to love little children. Tell you. Now listen to this. There's a story that says that there were 3 potential prostitutes. Potential being that they had little children and they needed some money and they went to give themselves to prostitution. Now, jolly old Saint Nick came along. This is a European story. And Saint Nick now gave them 3 bags of gold and took them away. 3 bags of gold and took them away. Now the story doesn't really go on to tell you what happened when he took them away. But I mean, you could just imagine. 3 potential prostitutes, he gave them 3 bags of gold and he took them away. Okay, good. This is why when Santa Claus comes through on the 25th or the 24th day of December, he's always looking for these same 3 prostitutes. This is why you would hear him saying, ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. That's all he said, ho, ho, and Rudolph with his nose so bright leading the sleigh. Because the story plainly shows you he gave them 3 bags of gold and he took them away. So now,
yeah, I read about Santa Claus and instead of the ladies of poor, and then that's what was talking in the candy stocking come about because he gave them the money and he put it in each of their stockings, but I never really see much.
bless it. Now, actually, when you observe, even down to the outfit that the fellow wears, he's a member of the Rosicrucians too. That's the red and white thing. We thank to the Constitution. Red and white, which we'll get to the red and white concept now. But even as I said, the etymology of it, because it's nothing nice. Even as down to, as we did with Bart, Santa is Satan, it's just the end to the end. All of these are codes, you know. You put the N at the end. See? Take the N, Santa, put it at the end. See, it's so simple. Here is a bird, just like the bear, a made-up bird, something they invented to express whatever they need to express. Alright, now what could be the crime behind this innocent bird here? Now, big bird, being a male bird, is usually the sort of message they portray. You know. Big bird, being a male bird, actually lives in a nest. Alright, nothing wrong with that. Birds live in a nest, no? Okay. Now, in reality, it's really the female bird that lives in the nest. The male does assist to build the nest. And of course, you know, the mother bird is really working hard too. But she's the one that really guards the eggs and sits with the chicks. Now, keep in mind, I want you to keep this point in mind though, that within all the species of birds, millions or whatever you go into, I mean, you'll find the unique in many different areas, in all sorts of animals. But when we observe now, big bird, an invented bird, as I said, just like the bear, going against the whole friends. Alright. Friend is right. Now, can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? You don't have to welcome me to Pool Corner, and I don't really know how to get to Sesame Street. I'm alright with that. Before we get to these freaks here, the whole sesame, this is Kabbalah again. So this is why now you hear them say open sesame. All of these are codes, what they want to refer to as Jewish magic. Open sesame. Alakazam. Abracadabra. Abracadabra is a mathematical theory. When you actually do abracadabra, if you look it up, it comes out like a triangle. abracadabra, where almost any way you turn it, it still reads abracadabra. It's a mystic thing. You have to start with the A, abra, and just keep going. Abracadabra. Mathematical theory comes out like a triangle. When you turn it, you still keep getting abracadabra. Alakazam. Yip, 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 all of these things. Yeah, it sounds funny. Comes right out of the Kabbalah and the so-called Jewish magic book, Sesame Street. Alright. Now, and still the sesame seed. Now, big fraud. Now, the subtle, subliminal message. So, that's why the word subtle, just to show you how subtle is. Subtle is spelled with a B. The same sub is right there, but they make it silent. So subtle it is. All of these are secret signs that are playing with us. I tell you. So this is why, you know, you have to refer to these individuals as robbers, as criminals, and all sorts of things. That's because that's exactly what they are. Now, you see, these fellas here, because they are fellas, you know, as I mentioned, Society of Odd Fellas, people that they call the Society of Friends. You know what they call the Society of Friends? The Quakers. Quakers, the same people you see in the oats. Anybody had a bowl of Quaker oats this morning? I mean, oats is good, you know, but personally I wouldn't eat from the Quaker. Quakers are the same people that came to the Society of Friends. Christ called Judas friend, you know. These people came and killed off the Indians for their land. Pilgrims, talking about Society of Friends. What kind of friends are these? And then they have Thanksgiving Day, eating turkey, which is a very sacred bird, to the same Indians that they just kill off. The nature of a bird in general, the male birds don't go and live in the nest. The male birds really don't even have a home. It's the female bird that lives in the nest, whether it's the round nest or even a hole in the walls. Even the mountain rock tops that some of them live in, and the woodpeckers. It's always the female birds and her chick. The male bird will just stay on the limb and look out. He might go in and check a thing, but he's always on the limb looking out. Alright. Big bird is a male bird living in the nest. And what makes it worse, Big Bird doesn't have a woman. So he doesn't really have any excuse. But what does Big Bird have? Alright. Now before we get to these criminals down here, there's an individual who is not on the wall they call Snuffleupagus. Now, depending on your age again and if you really got into these things, Snuffleupagus was an individual that no one on Sesame Street could see except the bird and me and you who were watching the television. Hollywood inhaling, huh? Now anytime someone is coming, whether it's Maria or Bob, you'll always see Snuffy rolling going out the back door. It's funny, the camera always seems to catch Snuffy. I always notice this, you know. The camera always seems to get Snuffy rolling going out the back door. They never catch him from the side or even from in front when he's coming out. They always catch Snuffy because going out the back door, rolling going out. Snuffy with his long eyelashes is a he, you know. Snuffy. Alright. I wonder what is snuffing. Now, when you study history now, in the mid-80s, because for those who are young to the world has not always been this way, you know. There was a time when what people refer to as homosexuals today were not as open as such as they are now. Actually in the mid-80s, with all the rioting and the gay rights protesting and all these things, and you know, everybody looking for their rights. You ain't right, but yet still everyone wants their right though. Homosexuals, lesbian, that's the whole concept of it, you know, lesbian. Good. I really hope no one here is offended. I really hope so. Now, in reality now,